See, last we discussed here what oscillation basic. So in oscillation also we can expect to the one question. What is that one means? Y is equal to a sine omega t. Again in this one what y is equal to a sine omega t plus pi. So we can identify to what one formula basic displacement formula. Again in this one waves basic we can identify to what Beats theory, and again we can identify to what Doppler effect. So Doppler effect, again we can identify to what waves basic we can identify to the progressive waves. Again we can identify to what different types of waves basic. Okay, so in this one chapter we can expect to the one. Again we are moving to the what second year. So in that one second year basic we can expect to the Neet total 31 questions where in Neet 2022. So in this chapter electric fields and charges we can expect to the two questions, and potential and capacitor basic we can expect to the each one. Potential basic we can identify to electric potential 1 and capacitor basic 1. So potential means we can identify to what 2-point charges and 1-point charges or 3-point charges basic we can identify the potential energy. Again we can identify the capacitor series and parallel basic we can identify. Again coming to the very important, and again in this one chapter have a more weightage. In this one we can expect to the 6 to 5 questions. So in this one more is there. One is the first resistors, and again conductors, and again we can identify the cells. Again Wheatstone bridge basic we can identify. Again we can identify to what last one potentiometer basic also we can identify the one question in this chapter. Again we can identify to the moving charges in magnetism. In this chapter we have to the 3 questions. That is one we can take to the Boyd-Savart law 1. Again parallel conductors, both formula based only it will be get. Again one of the is there solenoid we can identify to here one of the question is there. Again we can coming to the next chapter move magnetism and matter. In this chapter in theory and PU board, and again Neet also we can expect to what earth magnet basic we can identify to that one. Again in earth magnet basic dia, para, and again ferro. So we can identify to these 3 types of basic we can identify. Again in these 3 definitely we can expect to the 2 questions in this chapter. Again EMI it will be get whole. Why? Because means EMI and alternating current it is both mixed, and they will ask in alternating current resistors, inductors, and again we can identify the capacitors in series and parallel series combination basic only we can identify. Again in this one Q factor, and again LC oscillations basic we can identify to this chapter. Again electromagnetic waves it is all based on what wavelength basic. What is that one? UV rays and infrared rays and X-rays basic we can identify to this one electromagnetic waves. One tabular column is there in NCERT textbook. We can identify to that chapter. In that chapter we can read the only this table means we can observe to the total in this chapter it will be covered for PUC and Neet also. Okay, so in this one again we can coming to the second track, and very important to the ray optics. Ray optics means in this one last year we discussed what refractive index basic 2 questions it will be came. Again in this one basic we can identify to the sin C is equal to 1 by mu means refractive index basic we can identify. Again we can identify the Snell's law basic. In that one basic we can identify to the ray optics. Again reflection, refraction, and again total internal reflection basic we can identify the ray optics. In this chapter we can expect to the 3 questions last year only. Again in wave optics it will be get only one. What is that one means? Young's double slit experiment we can take to the fringe width is equal to lambda d by d, very important. And this one PU and Neet also very important. Only formula based only it will be based on formulas. Next dual nature. In this one only theory part. In this theory part also we can expect to the 2 to 3 questions we can expect. So in this one photoelectric effect, and again we can identify to what Einstein photoelectric effect also we can identify. Again in this chapter we can observe to the what intensity, and again intensity of light and photoelectric effect basic. We can see the few graph is there. Again in nuclei we can take to the two questions we can expect. What is that one means? Mass defect, and again we can identify to the radioactivity. Again we can identify to the nuclear fission, and again nuclear fusion. So in this one basic also we can expect to the one question. In this one, coming to the next chapter, we can take to the atoms. So in this atom we can take to the one or two questions we can expect. So in a hydrogen atom revolving to the one nuclei, on the time we can observe to the one or two questions. In that one series basic, Lyman series, and again Balmer series, Paxton series. Again we can take to the bracket series. We can identify to the one more one. So again in this one we can take to the semiconductor. In this semiconductor we can expect to the maximum 3 questions. In these 3 questions what? So first it will be get logic gates. Again in this one basic PN junction diodes, PN junction. Again we can take to the one theory basic energy bands basic. We can identify this chapter. In this overall we can take to the what overall chapters basic. We can perfectly what in second year electric current, and again ray optics and semiconductor. These 3 chapters we can truly perfect, means we get the nearby 5 and 3 plus 3 6, and one more moving charges in magnetism. We get 12 questions we can neatly thoroughly we can identify. In coming to the first year we can take to the units and measurements, and again system of particles and gravitation, and again what thermal properties of matter and oscillation.